class is the most important conversation we can have as a society because class affects everybody. And that we've been sold up a river on these lies about like, gender means so much and race means so much. And yes, should we pay attention to gender? Yes. Should we pay attention to race? Yes. You can't unsee it. It's just visible. It's immutable characteristics. But I've been hammering this drum for so long, ever since I got red pilled to this conclusion. The most important conversation we can have as a society is class, because class affects everything. It is unique to every person, and every person is affected by it, whether you're rich, poor, middle class, etc. I've used this example before, and many people haven't liked it, but it's true. There is, when you want to play the immutable characteristic argument, like, oh, we need to, help this group of people, whatever. What I'll say is that a poor white person has much more in common with a poor black person than a rich white person. And vice versa. A poor black person has far more in common with a poor white person than a rich black person. And people are like, whoa, like what do you mean by that? It's like, well, your skin color doesn't determine how you live and the values you have. That is up to you, but that's affected by class. If you live in a crime-ridden area where there's, not a lot of police presence, there's people getting mugged on the street, whatever, it doesn't matter what skin color you are. There's people getting mugged on the street. But if you live in a very nice neighborhood, white picket fence, whatever, it doesn't matter what color you are either. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. You live in a nice neighborhood where the grass gets mowed, where the streets are cleaned, all that kind of stuff. So class and the conversation around class either bonds a country together or rips it apart. Those are the two options that we have. So it either tears people apart or it brings them together. And we absolutely need to. We need to make sure that it does the former and not the latter. We need to have it bond us together and not have it tear us apart, because that's what people like Mamdani, like Trump in some ways, are kind of railing against. And it's destructive, and it's not a good way to build a society at all. It actually tears society apart in every single way you can imagine. So, bring this full circle on the Mamdani conversation. So the way we beat people like Zoran Mamdani is with people like J.D. Vance. That's exactly how we do it. Because J.D. Vance lived the exact opposite life of Zoran Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani came from privilege. J.D. Vance did not. He knows these people. This is why it was so smart for Donald Trump to pick him as his vice president. JD knows the class issue. And he talks about it in his book, in interviews, whatever. Guy slept in jeans. He had Coke or Pepsi in his baby bottle. Like, grew up around hillbillies who beat up and shot people if they made fun of their sister. He knows the working class. He knows how they operate. This is why I look up to JD Vance so much, is because JD Vance knew people like my family. JD identified with people like my family, who came from a very working middle-class upbringing on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad's. And still on my mom's side of the family. A lot of my family is very working poor, working class, middle class, still to this day. And so JD knows exactly what to do with the class question, which is why, by the way, so many institutional conservatives, the quote-unquote right, were against him as well. They did not want JD Vance to get inside of the vice presidency. They wanted Marco Rubio. They wanted Doug Burgum. They wanted somebody else. They did not want J.D. Vance. And that's very telling, because J.D. Vance is going to attack this class issue. And he has attacked this class issue. And he should have, because he has authority to speak on it. Because they know if J.D. is able to wield power in the future, and I think right now he's a massive front runner for the GOP nomination in 2028, if he chooses to run, that same group of people will be scared of him. And they should be. They should be. Unlike Mamdani, talking about JD here still, Mamdani paints a very nihilistic version of class, a very, very nihilistic version of class. And so he kind of says like, hey, and this is the fault with communism and Marxism at the end of the day from a philosophical perspective. Again, it's the religion of the malcontent, as Jesse Kelly says. So it's, it's not going to get better. You can't transcend your circumstances. You can't change anything about your life, so we got to eat the rich, essentially. But instead of Mamdani, we can look to people like JD who paint an inspirational version of class. Because the great thing about class and why this is such a uniquely American issue and why it defines our country so much is that unlike Europe, unlike Africa, unlike Asia, you can transcend class through good decision-making and the right help from the right leaders. It takes two to tango in this scenario. We need people making wiser decisions about their money, about their socioeconomic situation, and we need people who give enough of a shit about it to do something about it. And this has been, by the way, this is proven with the combination of JD and Trump, who have nothing in common. JD Vance and Donald Trump are not similar at all. Like at all. They have nothing in common in their life but the class issue and caring about the class issue. Now, Donald Trump did not come from the working class, but he was around the working class all the time. Construction crews, building crews, all union guys, all that kind of stuff. Donald Trump had that cachet and he had that pull with working class people because he knew how they operated. He didn't come from it like JD did, but he knew enough about it to be dangerous. And that proved to be a very effective combination politically for him. And so the bottom line, class must be at the forefront of every person's mind when it comes to issues in our world, issues in our culture. Because if we focus on the most important problems, our differences don't matter at all. They just don't. That's why I don't care what skin color you are. I don't care about any of that kind of stuff. And you shouldn't, if you're focused on the right stuff. Differences don't matter at all when it comes to class. No one cares about anything. And I think this is a broad conclusion, by the way. No one cares about anything you can't control. Like why? And the only people to do that are either trolls or irrational or true bigots. And there are them out there for sure. But you must control what you can control. You have to. Which is what will allow everything else to be far more peaceful than it otherwise would be. Class cannot be transcended unless you are focused on it, unless you work on it, unless you improve yourself. And then it's up to leadership to help you do that. That's what good leaders do. They lead their people. They care about their people. They love their people. And that combination is lethal when it comes to class.